Okay. Do you think the Manchester music scene still has a future after the Oasis glory?
I was thinking about that. Is that filming and recording?
Yes.
Is it filming and recording? Right. I thought it was just sound. Right. Sorry, repeat that question again.
Sure, of course.
I just wondered why it was holding up. I thought we were just doing audio.
No problem. Do you think the Manchester music scene still has a future after the Oasis glory?
Definitely. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Why?
Because it's ever evolving, isn't it? It's like, you could have said that there would never be another massive band from Manchester after Stone Roses and Happy Mondays, and then a few years later Oasis come along. Yeah, I mean there'll always be bands, whether you'll get 2 or 3 together at the same time, like a wave of bands like you did in 1990. I just don't know, but there'll always be bands coming out of Manchester.
But do you think they're going to be as big as
Oasis?
Elbow is quite in the good way, but
yeah, I mean, it depends what you call big. I mean, the music business has changed, and Oasis kind of caught that tail end of massive record sales and stuff like that, which people aren't going to get. But I see, Kasabian being like taking over the mantle from Oasis and being like the people's band. So there's no reason why we won't produce another Oasis or a Kasabian that will be. You won't be able to define it in sort of record sales and gigs possibly be like big in a different kind of way.
Alright. Do you reckon Manchester as the pop culture capital of the UK or even of the world?
Of the world, yeah. I mean, it's been researched, it's been scientifically researched by a Guitarist magazine, and theoretically every 18,700th person you walk past on the Manchester street will be from a famous band.
Yeah, okay. So for you,
for the size of the population, it's bigger than LA or any other city. So yeah, it's proven beyond doubt.
Are you proud of it?
Rock and roll capital of the world.
As a Mancunian, you're proud of it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course. Yeah.
And what shaped this pop culture capital?
What shapes it? You could go right back to the industrial heritage of Manchester. That it's been a very hard-working city. Very hard-working. They used to work hard. They used to play hard. So big drinking culture with that. Big musical culture. The immigration of Irish that came over to work on the docks and stuff. That a lot of the bands have sort of Irish descendants. So again, that's been important. Manchester has always been a friendly place for people to come and settle. There was a piece in the Evening News recently about Phil Lynott from Thin Lizzy, who was born in Dublin, and his mother, because she had a child, she was young, she was out of wedlock, and she had a black child. She moved to Manchester, she moved to Moss Side because she felt there wasn't any other places that would accept her, and she fitted in like that. She ended up owning a bed and breakfast in Whalley Range, and that's all in the book.
Yeah, I read it, yeah.
We found out the other day that the Sex Pistols went there and stuff like that. So,
but yeah, for sure, immigration
played a big part in it,
role,
because then you grow up in Manchester, just down the road in Yemen, like reggae and stuff like that, and it was a place where you could experience different cultures and different styles of music, definitely.
Okay. Now, what or who gave you the idea to organize a musical history tour?
What gave me the idea?
Yeah.
I don't know whether I did. Well, probably just the idea came from what they do in Liverpool with the Beatles.
Okay.
The other thing was I had a record shop, a small record shop in Affleck's Palace, and people would come in and buy records from Manchester Factory Records. So I was asking, "There's still there? What is there to see from Factory?" So you said, "Right, go down this street, give them badly drawn maps and send them." And they say, "I'm going to Salford," and you like tell them what bus to get on and stuff like that. And you think, "Oh, you know, you get lost around Salford. It's quite a rough place, you know." So I just thought, well, put the tours together, guide people around and tell them a few stories. And then I was thinking, yeah, go to Liverpool and check out what they did. So went over there and I thought, you know, they've got one that's massive, you know, that bus, Magical Mystery Tour bus goes out like 3 times a day, something, 4 times a day, every day except like New Year's Day, Christmas Day or something. I just thought, well, look, they've got one massive band, it's got massive appeal, but we've got more bands. So if I can do a fraction of that business that they do, then yeah, I'll be happy.
Did you feel it was necessary to tell the world that Manchester has a strong cultural identity by organizing these tours or even by writing the book?
Yeah, I mean the tours came first.
Yeah.
I wasn't aware when I did it that anybody else was doing it, and I felt obliged that there should be something because Manchester was famous for either football or music. For me anyway, that's why people came. And the fact that there wasn't anything music related, doing tours, you know, you could do ghost tours and pub tours and all these other tours, then, you know, I kind of felt it was something that I had to do almost. And, you know, it's kind of like, at first, there wasn't a lot of people sort of willing to back it or interested in it, so I kind of did it on my own back, and then more people, right, then, you know, just after a while, more people then came on the tour and word got around, and people were more willing to get involved in it and get the back in. And then shortly after starting it, I heard about Phil Gatenby had done some Smiths tours, and funnily enough, I'd met him before because he interviewed me in the very early days of Inspiral Carpets for a fanzine. So he came in the record shop where I was working, and we just linked up, and it was like, you know, I'll show you the walking tour that I do, and he showed me the Smiths tour, and then just started this company, Manchester Music Tours, between us. But I wasn't aware of what he was doing before I started my thing. And then he told me he'd done this book. At the time, done about 8,000 copies of this book. He said, why don't we do a new book with all the sites in it? So that's the Manchester Musical History Tour, yeah.
How does it feel to be the narrator and then the character?
I don't know really. They're both similar really. When you know, he stood up there talking in front of, I don't know, 10, 20 people doing the tours. Sometimes it can be as nerve-wracking as playing a gig to thousands of people, you know, playing the drums, but it still feels almost like performing really. You know, it's obviously slightly more reflective and slightly more personal, but it still feels like a performance. So I don't know. It's still got a similar feel to it.
Okay. Which methods did you use to write your book? How did you do your research?
We basically we decided what places we were going to talk about. Obviously, we were from the tours, and then now and again I'd get a little bit of information from somewhere, and I'd sort of send it to Phil, and then he'd do some research, or somebody would give me a bit of information, and I would sort of research it. And Phil, I kind of had the easy part because I was just like picking up bits of information out things, sending it to Phil, and Phil's kind of put it all together. So
That's Phil Rutherford. Does he? Is it him?
Phil from.
Yeah,
Have you met Phil?
Yeah, no, but did he? It's you or Phil wrote the book?
Well,
Both of you, right?
jointly. Well, Phil's had experience with sort of writing books. He's wrote probably about 4 books.
Okay, alright.
So.
It's more comfortable writing.
Yeah. So I mean, there's stuff that I mean, he's done most of the writing up. There's stuff that's been sort of quoted from my word to word. There's stuff like from Clint, his direct quotes and stuff like that. I mean, the research was already done really, because you know, you've got the Joy Division tour, you've got the Oasis tour, you've got the walking tour, so we had all the sites, and you know, they was sort of the easy bits really, because you know, you knew they're the famous sites and you knew a lot about them. Some of the more obscure stuff was slightly harder. I mean, the stuff about the mill where we used to record, which Clint used to own, and the history behind that and stuff like that.
The perfect data for all the dates and the data. I'm sure you did the research for that. I mean, for the, I don't know, for which building was built in 1852, this kind of thing.
Yeah,
how do you know that? So
I spent a year doing that. When I first took the idea of the tour to Marketing Manchester, the tourist information people, I took them on the tour. They kept saying, when was this building built? When was that building built? Buildings that weren't even on the tour, and pulled me up about it and said, look, you need to know this. If we're going to back you, you're going to be a tour guide, then you need to know. And then I spent virtually a year researching Manchester's natural history. And
did you go to the library?
You do it all on the internet, can't you? I mean, and there's books as well, certain books, you know. Hidden Manchester, things about the underground tunnels, the underground rivers, and stuff like that. And that's an interesting bit. I can tie that in.
So you didn't set a foot in the John Ryland Library?
No.
I'm disappointed.
No, I should have done. I should have gone in.
I'm joking.
In the Manchester's Central Library, where following the footsteps of Anthony Burgess and Morrissey, and got it and researched it. But
okay. Alright. Okay, I will actually speak up. Oh. I'm curious to know how you are able to relate the Czechoslovakian lyrics anecdotes. How do you know that the lyrics are not being completed when the tune had been produced? How do you know the story about the inclusion of sifters in the song? Do you remember the anecdote?
Sorry, repeat the question.
Yeah, sure. It's page 81. When I read that, I was very curious how you knew it.
This one? Or this one?
About this, yeah.
This?
Yeah.
Because Oasis did a no.
You don't?
It's a true story. I'm not sure if Noel. So there's a documentary of Noel driving around a lot of the old, taking around a lot of the old places to his mum's house, and they go sifters and they go past the pub, and Noel says that's where I got done for shoplifting, and Liam says that's where I used to go glue sniffing behind that. I don't know if he says it on that, or might be the Oasis DVD, definitely maybe.
Yeah, okay.
I don't know.
I'll check
it.
Alright.
It's a true story, but I don't know where it came from.
Okay. Why don't you talk about The Verve in your book? The band? The Verve?
Well, they're from Wigan, which is not really part of Manchester.
It's Greater Manchester. But yeah, you're right. I think it's the reason why, because I've noticed that this band is often omitted in the books.
Yeah. They did live in Manchester. We parked on the street where they used to live, didn't we? Or just where we parked up. That was. No, it's the one before. But they lived very near where we parked because we couldn't get down the street to go to Hornet's house. Yeah, they live there. Yeah, maybe for the next pressing, maybe we should name the house where Verve used to live in Didsbury.
You see, it would be the,
I'm going to make a note of that. Definitely, I'm going to make a note.
Alright, nice.
It's got to go in the box now, you
You
mentioned it.
would say, yeah, it's Elodie from France.
Yeah, I will. If you get a credit in the next one.
Alright, you wrote in the book that you watched Nolan's debut gig at the Boardwalk.
Yeah.
So what did you think at that moment when you saw them perform? Even if we already know the answer, did you think at that time that they were promising? Yeah, sure.
Not really. Well,
Yeah. Be honest.
to be honest, I thought they were okay. I didn't think they were anything special. I thought they were okay. I didn't think they had a chance of making it because there was a big backlash towards Manchester bands at the time they were coming out, and Liam's vocals were not developed, and he just sounded like a Ian Brown impersonator. So I didn't think they had much chance of making it. Although musically they had something, they were quite tight and they had a sound, and Noel's guitar was great. Reminded me a lot of kind of U2 or the Edge. They were quite a big influence on Noel. He doesn't talk about them a lot nowadays, or certainly since it made it, but he was a very big fan of U2.
Oh really?
Yeah.
He said he talks a lot about the Smiths and Morrissey lyrics, but I didn't hear about
I know
his
U2 probably aren't
influence.
as cool, but yeah, he'd often listen to U2.
Okay.
He put U2 on through the PA system as he was setting the equipment up. So,
Is it because of his Irish background?
possibly.
Okay, well, because YouTube was very famous and very, they do stadium tours and they wanted to be like them because everybody wanted to be like YouTube at that moment, probably.
Possibly.
What do you reckon?
Possibly. I mean, I don't know. I just think that they're probably not perceived as being as cool as the Beatles. I mean, there was another band called the Real People that were really influential on Noel and Oasis. And we never really talked about them a lot. I mean, in fact, they produced like the early records and helped write them. And they never really got the credit. They never even get a mention on the back. They're known as something like the Clappers or something. If you read McCarroll's book, he says how influential they were on Noel's writing and everything. So, I mean, a lot of it's kind of image and stuff like that. But I think just U2, they were going through that sort of uncool period. I mean, it's probably cool to say you like them now, and he'll probably say I admit to liking them, but in that sort of early 90s, late 80s period, when they were sort of Joshua Tree and all that, they're probably a bit uncool to the name drop.
Yeah. Rivalry between the mentioned bands. Okay, speaking. Okay, were there any rivalry between the mentioned bands, or instead did they really stand together?
No, there was a little bit of rivalry caused by because Noel used to work in our office, he tried to do stuff like that. I used to do interviews on behalf of the band, sometimes pretending to be one of the bands. So sometimes it gets us into trouble. Like somebody asked us in Smash Hits what we thought of Happy Mondays, and Noel, it was a fax, and Noel filled it in, and Noel put Munich Smackhead Bastards. And they kind of printed something or something similar, and Sean Ryder went looking for Clint with a knife, and that's it. They said he was going to cut his hair off. He had a gold chain around his neck with a watch on it. He said he was going to cut it off and cut his hair off and all that. And then the press would often steer forward to say, Happy Monday said this about you, they called you clueless knobhead, get you to say something back. But people like Bez would say, no, go easy on the Sparrow Camp, it's enough room for everybody in this scene, So it wasn't as pally as everybody thought it was. And it was great camaraderie in the early 80s before everyone made it. So of 87, everybody was helping each other out. It was like Manchester against London, when we was like setting up our own infrastructure. But by the 1990s, everybody made it. Everyone got their own egos, and that's when I think there's a little bit of rivalry. But I certainly weren't right for it. Maybe jealous of the Stone Roses happening one day, so not
Okay.
right for it.
All right. Very last question. Adam, what is your favorite Manchester song?
Favourite Manchester
Yeah.
song is You Stole the Soul of Twisted Wheel.
Which one? Oh, Sons of Stage. What did you say? Sorry.
No, I like Sons of Stage. Sons of Stage is brilliant. There's a track by Twisted Wheel called You Stole the Soul. I'm playing for you tonight.
Okay, all right. What's the title?
You Stole the Soul. Twisted Wheel, and they're from Greenfield in Saddleworth.
Okay, you know,
By the village where I
we
live.
watched them. You mean
Ah, you
Twisted
see?
Wheel?
Yeah,
Oh,
you know
you know
them,
they were the spotted band of Oasis, right? Yeah. It was so
Three
recent.
pitch.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Are you sticking around?
Yeah.